Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely mind-bending. We're going to decode the actual mathematical engine that runs our universe. We'll be exploring a concept known as the dual caustic universe, or DCU, which suggests that reality itself operates on a fundamental repeating numerical pattern, 2, 3, and 7. But wait, we aren't just going to treat this as some abstract philosophical thought experiment. Nope. We are going to map this exact system directly into the rigorous universal language of calculus to see exactly how the cosmos computes change.
It's kind of the ultimate paradox of existence, right? We look around and see constant transformation. The seasons change, stars burn out, cells divide. Yet, the fundamental laws and the total energy of reality, they never actually collapse. So how does something change without completely breaking the system? How does the universe keep its balance while every single thing inside it is in motion? Well, the framework we are exploring today suggests there's a highly precise structural mechanism answering that exact question.
There's a brilliant quote from the source material that really hits the nail on the head. It reveals that all change is just a structured, perpetual cycle. It's not random at all. The argument here is that from the bizarre world of quantum mechanics, all the way to the beating of a human heart, reality relies on the single engine of transformation. A unified field splits, it takes on a specific form, and then it integrates back together to repeat the cycle. Split, form, repeat.
Okay, to truly grasp this, here's our roadmap. We'll start with the universal engine of reality, move through the sequence of the derivative split, the manifestation form, and the integral return. Then we'll connect them into a compact computational loop, and finally, explore why we live in a universe without zero.
All right, Section 1, the universal engine of reality, decoding the 237 framework through mathematics. Let's bridge the gap between abstract patterns and actual computation.
What we have here is basically our translation manual, perfectly aligning philosophical operators with precise calculus functions. If you want the shortest possible form to remember, it's this. 2 is the derivative, 3 is the function, 7 is the integral, or closure. This sequence of 2, 3, 7 isn't just a random list of numbers, it's an actionable sequence of operations. It describes exactly how energy and information move through a state of change, are held in a recognizable structure, and are finally conserved.
Moving right along to Section 2, the derivative split. This is the boundary where change actually begins. Let's look at how reality initiates that spark.
Think about it. Nothing becomes real without crossing a binary threshold of separation. The 2 operator is a dual action. It's completely equivalent to a differential operator. It acts on a state to expose contrast, separating a unified field into an input versus an output. I mean, for an event to even happen, or to measure change, you literally must have a difference between 2 states, a before and an after, a positive and a negative. In calculus, this is the very foundation of taking a derivative, finding that exact difference between a function at 2 nearby points. When we put the philosophy and the math side by side, it just clicks. The act of dividing and extracting a signal in philosophy is exactly what a derivative does mathematically. The philosophical 2 represents separation, tension, and the dual evaluation of states, and its exact calculus parallel? That's the rate of change, the gradient, mathematically written as d over dx. The derivative is basically a controlled bifurcation. It gently splits a system just enough to reveal the exact rate of change at a precise boundary. Okay, on to Section 3. 3, the manifestation form, the structure that holds reality. Because once that split occurs, the change needs a container. Without this phase, the dual tension from that initial 2 split would just instantly annihilate itself. This is the intermediate manifold. Think of it like a chrysalis phase, where raw energy is beautifully encoded into a structured shape. The 3 represents manifestation, the form, or the buffer. It acts as the state space representation that actually holds the system together, giving the change a physical law or trajectory to follow, so the operations don't just collapse. And this brilliantly illustrates how the number 3 isn't really a quantity at all. It's the mathematical function, f of x, that gives reality its physical laws. The philosophical concept of a structural buffer maps flawlessly to f of x in calculus, the realized form. When the gap in our derivative shrinks towards 0, that separation transforms into a continuous truth. What was once 2 fragmented states becomes one flowing behavior, like velocity or growth. The law governing the system is now visible as a function. Which brings us to Section 4, 7, the integral return, restoring the total system. After change has been structured and expressed, the universe basically has to balance its books.
This operator ensures that while all these parts are changing locally, the total reality is perfectly accounted for and returned to equilibrium. The 7 is the eternal operation of closure. It is the global accumulation directly equivalent to an integral operator. You can think of it as the ultimate boundary condition. It recombines all those separated, structured pieces back into a conserved, invariant whole. That way, nothing is ever truly lost.
Integration is essentially the ultimate act of cosmic memory. It gathers up all those infinitely small pieces to reconstruct the unified whole. The philosophical concepts of return and invariant preservation perfectly match their calculus twin, the integral, mathematically expressed as the integral of f of x dx. Calculus is performing the exact reverse of the derivative here. It adds up all those infinitesimal local changes to restore the full quantity. The system returns to unity, fully informed by the changes it just experienced.
All right, Section 5, the compact computational loop, connecting the operators. Let's dive into how these 3 distinct pieces actually form a single, unbroken engine.
Let's see how this builds. First, the 2 operator differentiates, which generates a local change. Next, the 3 operator takes over, holding the form of that change as a function. Finally, the 7 operator integrates it, summing it all up into a stable, invariant whole. And then what? Well, the cycle simply repeats, feeding the output right back into the input. 2 generates, 3 holds, 7 integrates.
Finally, Section 6, a universe without zero. Why the cycle never ever terminates. If the universe is a closed loop continuously running this calculus, you might wonder if it ever just stops.
Does it ever hit a true zero where nothing exists? The math says absolutely not. A true zero state literally cannot exist because the constant of integration serves as the eternal memory of the universe. In calculus, when you integrate a function, you always add plus c, the constant of integration. This isn't just some mathematical technicality. In this framework, it is physical memory. It means differentiation always extracts a signal, and integration always accumulates back into a non-null constant. The baseline of reality is never empty. It holds the memory of all previous states.
This perfectly visualizes that continuous, unbroken flow of reality, spinning perpetually through these 3 operators. The universe doesn't just expand into nothingness, it processes information through this exact 237 geometry. The derivative breaks reality into pieces to find the law, the function expresses that law, and the integral summates those pieces to restore the whole. And it carries that plus c memory forward into the next spin of the wheel.
And here is the absolute core of it all. The minimal computational loop. Look at how perfectly the fundamental theorem of calculus maps onto this. 7 equals the integral of the 3 function. 2 equals the derivative of the 3 function. Differentiation and integration act as exact inverses on the exact same structural form. It's one singular engine, running beautifully in opposite directions to preserve the balance of existence.
So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to ponder, as the calculus of the cosmos continues its eternal operation. If every single action is part of a derivative split, held in the form of your lived experience, and ultimately integrated back into a universal whole that forgets absolutely nothing, how does that change the way you view your own life? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.